All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So I'm going to cover three stocks today. We're going to look at SoundHound, we're going to look at BBAI, and we're going to look at Bullfrog AI. Truth be told, we're probably going to look at a couple more, but those three are going to be the focus of the day. And what a crazy day on SoundHound. What a crazy day on Serve. I don't know if you were looking at this one or not. And really, both of those, SoundHound and Serve, were a reaction to two tickers. It was WRD, WeRide Inc. You can see a monster 83% day. That's down here. We actually opened right here. We even run as high as like this was a monster 100% gain at one point. The other ticker was NVIS. Okay, and this doesn't look like much. This looks like a rather insignificant 6%, especially when we're just looking at an 80 something, right? But these two stole the thunder from the other one, SoundHound and Serve. And again, we're going to look at Sound specifically, mainly because of an Nvidia investment update. Okay, so I'll tell you personally, and generally when a YouTuber or a general stock poster, when they give updates, they rarely give bad ones, right? But I can easily tell you today was the biggest loss I've eaten since starting chart readers about 2.5 years ago, give or take. I for sure took a fat loss on Serve specifically. I saw this candle. I was expecting all-time highs, not a 40%, more than 40% at its worst morning. You know what I mean? So, hey, I'm still smiling here. I'm still making videos. Life happens, you know what I mean? But yeah, this killed me. And generally, what kills me is my lack of knowing when the specific ticker I'm in earnings are. Not really the earnings of a random stock, punching me in the gut, right? So, less about me, more about the tickers, always that. But hey, I at least really quickly wanted to share. Oh, today I lost a sad four-digit number to say the least. And hey, it's all good. It happens, knock on wood. I'll get it back and then some, right? But look, the question really is a few levels, right? Depending on which ticker you're looking at. First and foremost, what's going to happen to SoundHound? Right? I'm going to talk about the moving averages. I'm going to talk about the daily and the weekly, but there is a lot of green, green, green to red, red, red. You know what I mean? And hey, I'm not going to talk crazy numbers. You know that. I'm not here to spread fear and this and that, but that same green, 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 red, red, red really is on both the daily and the weekly, right? So we'll see what happens. But yeah, crazy doji in the 100 at least was able to catch it today, right? From there, the next question is going to be what's going to happen to BBAI? All right. I think it's twofold. And I said this in the Discord. I'll give my thoughts. Hey, believe me, if you disagree, if you think you have better comments, share them with the team, right? I'm just giving you thoughts, right? But nothing had to do with BBAI today. All right. Nvidia was not invested in BBAI. Nvidia did not take out any investment since they were never in it, right? So, in some ways, the question kind of is hey, do I even care if I'm looking at BBAI? I think the other part is look, a lot of what set my alert, hey, knock on wood, I'm not here to brag and stuff like that. We were all over that 430 break. And oh my goodness, a lot of it really was SoundHound FOMO, in my opinion, right? And I'll talk about this more in detail, right? But BBAI, in my opinion, did well because the US Navy contract and SoundHound FOMO. With SoundHound doing bad, does there bring fear to this one? Or hey, can we ride the 8, let the Navy contract do its thing and then some, right? So that's going to be the question here. And then the next layer, but the exact same question is, hey, what's about to happen with Bullfrog? Right? In a lot of ways, Bullfrog was that third layer of FOMO, right? FOMO is fear of missing out, FOMO, right? Just in case you're international, that means nothing to you in your language. But to me, Bullfrog was that third layer. I missed SoundHound. I missed BBAI. Let me at least catch Bullfrog, right? We were hoping that would come with the volume, et cetera, right? So again, nothing had to do with Bullfrog today, but the question really is how heavy a hand does SoundHound have on these two? All right, so yeah, real interesting video to say the least. I feel as much technical information as I can give right now, a lot of it really is going to become what confirms and then ride that accordingly. All right, so before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So, SoundHound, look, I think the first thing I have to stress is today is a real good reminder that, look, there is no crystal ball. There is no perfect technical stack. Sometimes fundamentals matter more than technical, sometimes vice versa, right? Today was a crazy day on SoundHound, right? I'm going to start by looking at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ is doing well. NASDAQ closes over 20,000 for the first time in about 3 weeks. NASDAQ went from gap down to go, gap down to go, gap down to hold and go, right? There's so much going on in NASDAQ. I feel like I could make a 20-minute video just on this NASDAQ chart right here, right? But NASDAQ is looking good. Yesterday's candle was really nice, all right? SoundHound is looking all right as of yesterday. Look, we were up here, come down. We try to go up, come down. This was very mimicking the up and down of the NASDAQ, right? That last candle takes back 2 of them. We were starting to get a little closer to the 50-day volume line, right? And then all of a sudden, I use all of a sudden like not even loosely, all of a sudden, crazy things happened today. And like I started in the opening thoughts, it had nothing to do with SoundHound. There was no earnings call where they removed guidance or they changed strategies. There was no PR update that had bad financials or anything like that. It was an Nvidia investment update. And I'm telling you, personally, my biggest flaw as a trader is I'm too technical. When I'm in a stock, I actually sometimes don't know when the earnings date is. You know what I mean? And I've tried to get better at that and this and that. I've never lost so much money from another stock's earnings hurting me. And again, I'm talking about Serve specifically, like I talked about in the opening thoughts, but it was the exact same one too. Nvidia, and this is really where we're going to start talking about what we think is going to come next. Nvidia took this stock from $2 to 20. Okay, you can easily argue that comment. There are 4 earnings, in between that original investment and that $20 peak. For all I know, and again, you know I don't know it that well, right? I'm not pretending I do. Maybe this earnings right here in November, what was this? November, come on, mid-November. Maybe that earnings was actually really good, and that's what actually took it from like 7 to 20. Oh, I got to do some stuff. Whatever. I personally am looking at this as just a technical dude, right? And what I see is no volume at all until Nvidia peak, right? Nvidia update, Nvidia disclosure. That at the minimum takes us from 2 to 10, right? That's baseline. From there, I think a lot of the hype that kept this here was what's the next Nvidia update. Again, maybe this was a decent earnings. I don't know. As I look at it, there was actually an immediate gap down, and hey, the moving averages happened to hold. And again, if you remember, that was actually in the middle of the peak of the NASDAQ takeoff, right? NASDAQ has a little fall, a monster gap up, and then continues for the next month, right? So for all I know, it was maybe a bad earnings, and then NASDAQ did its thing and real well, right? So, all I'm saying is, hey, I don't know. I really, really don't know if coming back towards like two-ish is a little bit realistic. All right. And again, I'm never here to spread fear. FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Doubt, I think, FUD. That's not my game. It's really not. But this is the reality of what just happened. Nvidia just said we're pulling out of SoundHound, right? Let me know if I'm wrong on that. Let me know if they just said we're pulling out a little bit. Let me just, but that's what I read in the Discord. That's what I saw on some of my headlines, right? And and let me know if you disagree that no, Nvidia didn't take this from 2 to 20. It took it from 2 to 8, give or take, right? Because that's going to make a big difference in my head. If this took it from 2 to 8, and then this earnings right here basically took it from that same 8 to 20, I think that'll put a lot more strength at around that $8 line. Okay? If that's incorrect, from there we're going to basically be playing the horizontal lines. I'm about to adjust these two because I think these are a little too far back. And right now we care about the immediate. So that's going to be an important line right there. And then I'm not necessarily going to put the 8 line because if you see the 200 moving average is sitting at $7.90, I think that's basically close enough to 8 for me to basically say, all right, we'll see what that does. But normally I would put a little bit of a line around 650. I don't even think that's worth drawing right there. I think if 8 holds, that's gonna dictate something. I think if 8 doesn't hold, that's where we'll start talking about for something, and then I'll at least respect that before we start talking about that. Okay. Now, the next question is going to be what's up with this 100 moving average line? Look, the 100 moving excuse me, 100 moving average line is a no joke line. That's a really good strong line, okay? And believe me, when I see the Nasdaq look as good as it does, when I see the MACD and the RSI and volume all right there and looking good on NASDAQ, the last thing I would normally say is I don't believe the 100 is going to hold. The 100 should be really, really strong. It is hard to break up. It's difficult to lose down. All right. And man, that's a crazy doji right there. It is basically penny for penny where this thing opens and closes. There were people that thought it was a crazy exaggeration and it should have gone up. There was almost equally the same amount of people that thought we should no go down and continue on our way down, right? So it's a tough doji right there. I think at the minimum, I see a pretty significant test of the golden line. All right. Maybe a strong NASDAQ will take us up from here to there. I think there's a decent recovery chance to that 1260. Man, I don't know how much I believe in it sustaining because to me, that I'm sorry, NASDAQ, that Nvidia investment at the minimum kind of says we're probably coming back down to 8. And then we're really like, please let me know if you have some good thoughts about the last earnings. You know what's really cool is this system has now started to let me know when the next earnings should be. It looks like it's going to be around 3.6. We're still weeks away from 3.6. All right. And hey, earnings can fix a lot of things or make it significantly worse. And oof, that's kind of what it is. And what I'm seeing, excuse me, they were minus 6 cents earnings per share on the last one, and now we're expecting them to be minus 11. So at the minimum, their expenses are going down. Hopefully, there's a good story behind that. But hey, I'm not here to talk about that, and that's not my game, right? But truth be told, I believe this is going to come down to 8. I can maybe see this recovering to 1260. And hey, if it breaks 1260, from there we'll be talking moving averages, right? But it's hard to think anything above that. I would basically say, and that's kind of what we wick today. But yeah, the most educated line I can give you down here is 1050, right? 1053 to be exact. Losing 1053 would be really scary because from there, yeah, it really is red, green to red, basically down to that $8 line that I mentioned. Look, clearly MACD and RSI are looking tough. I think what I'm really focusing more on is the golden line, the 100 moving average, and then what volume looks like come Tuesday. Because again, remember, it's a long day, right? If I was gonna say a good number, man, that's tough because and look, you can kind of see at the top of the wick tested basically 50%. I would basically say 1188, but from there 1188 to that 1260, that's a little bit of a tight window for profit. Maybe if your risk reward tolerance is a little higher, maybe you can argue 1130. But again, you can see that was part of the wick fake out today, right? So 1188 feels like the best number to say, at least as a potential. But really, I think I would see if we tried to go to 1260 and hey, maybe break it and play that up. Otherwise, yeah, we'll see how this thing reacts down here. I think the best line is obviously going to be 1660. Okay, if we can get over 1660, that would be great. But yeah, there's a lot that needs to happen before that. All right. When we look at the weekly, I think the fact that the 50 moving average and the 200 are basically around that $8 line, you can see it's 778 right here. I think it just emphasizes everything. And again, I see the MACD and RSI immediate reaction to this big bad candle. This all came on a single day, right? So we're not necessarily here overreacting, but I think what I'm doing is respecting the I keep saying Nasdaq. That's how important it is. Basically the Nasdaq, right? I think I'm respecting that Nvidia update. All right. Look, if you're a sound long, and I know a lot of my early subscribers were, I remember making so many videos during that $1, $2, even below one window, right? Hey, nothing has changed on SoundHound. It's not like their AI system all of a sudden sucked or all of a sudden it was implemented somewhere and it critically failed or anything like that, right? Like some of you were here before Nvidia, all right? And you got to kind of decide what mattered more, right? For others that came because of Nvidia and hey, you can see it. The volume says it was a lot more people than before that, right? Oof, Nvidia's gone, and I think you got to start to decide what you want to respect and not, right? So let me know if you have better details on the news or the earnings. But yeah, I think that's my SoundHound details. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. So let's now come into BBAI and maybe in a lot of ways Bullfrog, the exact same thought. So I might chapter the two together. I think there's a couple important things to stress one more time. I definitely said them in the opening thoughts, but just in case you fast forwarded to here, look, nothing today impacted BBAI. All right. There were two tickers that kind of rocked the market a little bit. All right. It was basically WRD with a monster gain, and it actually looks like it's going up just a little bit after hours. And then it was one second, NVIS. All right. This was the other one. Okay, between those two, it messed up SoundHound to say the least, and then Serve was another one that it affected. BBAI was not in any way, shape, or form affected by any of the. There was never a penny that Nvidia disclosed that they invested in this thing. So obviously, there's no penny removal if there was nothing there, right? What me personally, all right? Hey, I'm never here to tell you what I trade. That's not my game, right? Like what I buy and sell has nothing to do with what you should do, right? And believe me, I'm wrong way more than right. Trust me when I say that, all right? The main reason I played that run right there. Number one was the technicals. Obviously, there were some good technicals going on, but really, number two was the SoundHound FOMO. SoundHound was a big volume monster runner, and all of a sudden it was missing. This volume needed to go somewhere, and it really wasn't going into another sector. It's not like quantum stocks picked up more. There was a little bit of like robotics and nuclear, right? But yeah, end of the day, it was hungry to go somewhere else, and like the big bear it gobbled up all that volume and ran, right? This, for me personally, and really the backbone of a lot of the last videos, if you've been watching them, this was a SoundHound play, okay? Before that happened, there was a U.S. Navy contract. All right. And I say it across so many different videos because, again, that's a big one. A U.S. government contract is gold. There is no deeper pocket. There is nothing closer to an infinite pool of money and orders that a company can get like the U.S. military, right? and maybe that US Navy play can actually sustain this a lot more than just some SoundHound piggyback, right? Follow the leader is what I've always kind of called this thing. This thing was a follower of SoundHound, in my opinion, right? So really what I'm watching like a hawk is this 8 moving average. So far, all BBAI has done is broken all and flown, come back to the 8 moving average and bounce, come back to the 8 moving average, and will it bounce or will it not? All right, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, again, I think I'm not zooming out as much and being worried about coming down to here or here. I'm not actually even worried about mimicking SoundHound and coming to the 100 moving average. That's actually not in the back of my head right now. But it's a little concerning to see that the 8 moving average is up here at 850, and then all the way down there is the next strong moving average at 5 something. That's for sure a little concerning. You can see my line right here at 7, but hey, again, that's a bit something, right? Maybe another one at 770, give or take. I'm not going to draw it, but hey, it's at least there, right? So um, I'm not worried about a fall to here, but that's a worrisome fall if the 8MA doesn't hold, all right? This was an important week right here on the weekly chart. Okay, sorry, that's what I want to say. This was an important weekly chart candle. Last week, monster break of the newly formed 200 moving average. This is not a confirmation, but that's definitely a real interesting and a relatively good doji, especially seeing that volume held. MACD still looks good. Like BBAI on its own doesn't look bad. The question just is what's going to be that SoundHound fallout, because clearly we didn't see much of it today. All right. Look, again, we're actually still holding 50% of the biggest candle right there too, right? That's roughly what we wicked. You can probably even say it's a little bit higher, but regardless, right? So what am I looking for on BBAI? What are my lines? It's basically 850. All right, that's worry line number one. We can't lose 850. We really want to bounce up, and I'll talk about the up shortly. From there, it's basically 770 and then 7. After 7, it actually might be a real fast fall to 5 something. Okay? Um what we're hoping is what's already started. We came to the 8, we're working our way on up. Personally, I'd probably wait for 890 to break. You can maybe argue that 870 is an interesting entry line right there. I'm basically, oh, sorry, 930. Wow, excuse me. 930 could be an interesting entry line. But yeah, hey, if we can break 881, if we can actually break that IPO line, oh man, from there we're probably talking 11 something and a relatively high 11 something. I'll just draw it off the weekly is what I'll do. Um, so that's what we're looking for in BBAI. I'm actually real curious what you think. Do you think we're gonna follow SoundHound down? Do you think we're able to hold on up? Please let me know, right? From there, and again, this is why I'm keeping the chapters the same, not BRFE, BRFG. Sometimes my pudgy fingers brings us some good tickers, not that time right there. Bullfrog. Okay, there's a lot that could be said here, and it very much echoes the same thing I just said about BBAI. Look, nothing bad happened to Bullfrog this morning. All right. In fact, this thing was as high as 480 this morning. Hey, knock on wood, I texted a buddy, and both of us actually got a good little bank on Bullfrog. I got scared. I'll be real honest with you. The SoundHound reaction and ripple scared me a lot on these two specifically, because yeah, I was following the leader, right? What is Bullfrog doing? The exact same thing I was saying on BBAI. It breaks off 5 and flies, come back to the 8, it goes. We still haven't even come back down to the 8 yet. We're still holding 50% candle. We're not even like tanking after hours, right? We're basically holding, right? So this isn't bad, and there was nothing bad that was said about Bullfrog specifically, and in so many ways Bullfrog was the follower of BBAI. So maybe there's enough degrees of separation to keep this thing in check. You know what I mean? So There's so many different ways to look at it. From there, it's just, the ripple and the SoundHound afterbite, right? So what am I looking for? Look, I'll draw some lines because I think I need to at least make one more. Excuse me, a little hiccup there. I like that. What's this? What's that? How much higher is that? Look, I think it's risk reward tolerance, but I don't mind. I don't mind here. So look, I'm basically taking the top of yesterday. All right. If we can get over 395, I think there is reason to think that we're going to keep doing our little climb that we're doing right here. All right. When you look at the MACD and you look at the RSI, they're actually both really nice. This is a good divergence. That's still a healthy 70, green over red on both. Volume is actually relatively holding. Obviously, we're not as high as we were right here, but we've been pretty consistent at this 3 million line right here, right? So it's a long weekend too, and this is the most like speculative. I struggle with that word, but this is what I would call the riskiest of the three. This should be the one that actually kind of, I don't want to use the word tank, but this should be tanking after hours because people don't want to hold for a weekend, let alone a 3-day weekend, and then just come back Tuesday. Like, I'll be honest, that's what I did. I sold. I'm selling with a smile, but I'm a little surprised that it's like holding, and I think it's making me think, oh, I probably should have averaged up instead of selling. But yeah, I think if this thing can prove itself around 395, $4, give or take 410, that was that higher side of that range. Oh, I'll happily buy back, say, oopsie daisy, and keep going, right? But yeah, I'm actually surprised this isn't tanking, given the ranking of strength between these three, right? So in a lot of ways, that might be some strength. So we talked about the way up, right? Because I said you're gonna break 9.9, you might head up to that 5. Again, I'll say it one more time. I'm not really going to draw it, but I can see that that's actually what we wicked on this day. But yeah, 440 might be something to struggle with. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, today's wick was pretty close to that 5.5. My lines aren't here for perfect, right? So that's pretty close to it right there. If we were going to lose 360, maybe 355, that's where I'll start thinking. Sorry, that's where I'll start thinking. Wow, that's where I'll start thinking 330s. Okay, roughly speaking, if I had to guess where that 8 moving average is going to come up, it's probably going to be around there anyways, right? If we lose that 330, that's where things can get dicey because I could see it falling to 3 real quick. That's basically another 10% drop. And then if this loses 3, it will quickly come down to the twos from there. All right, so ideally this never goes below 335. Really, I'd love this to never really go below 360-ish. All right, but break 4, and yeah, I'll start to believe that there's room here because yeah, on the weekly, this is actually the first candle over all the moving averages. There is no 200. That 100 is very, very new and freshly formed. In a lot of ways, that's a doji right there, too. So that's an interesting doji pretty much on a moving average. I love those if you watch me enough. And again, all of these down here look good, right? The question really is the SoundHound Ripple gonna like have a long enough arm to hold these down? Or can BBAI and Bullfrog actually break out and do their own thing? All right. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so, so much.